In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome to another session of Lessons from My Mother. We are on lesson number 39. And I am so dressed because I'm just leaving for luncheon in an hour or so. But because it's a Monday, I thought I might as well come and do my video slightly earlier. Um, I'm pleased to say that we're on lesson number 39, almost 40 done, which means we're halfway. We're almost halfway through. And then after that, hopefully within the next couple of months, we cover all the rest. And then hopefully me and my mother will compile it into a book, hopefully to be published and sold quite well. A collection of these lessons and also lessons from my friends' mothers, who I will be periodically interviewing. I've interviewed 3 so far, and I'll interview the rest after that. Now, this lesson is a difficult one for the young to grasp in particular, but also a lot of people who may have been exposed to Western or South Asian or East Asian or any other type of media. It's about love. And my mum, as you may have noticed in the last 38 lessons, has been the driving force in all our lives, all 4 sons. She's been the central driving force. My father, God bless him, has been more of a boundary person. He sets the boundaries, he arranges the larger structure, the larger discipline, and then he lets my mom, like, okay, how do you want to do this? You want to work on the homework? Great. What do you want me to do? And she said, I want you to do this. Cool. I'll do that. And so they had a very fine understanding of their roles. So it's fair to say that my mum was the central driving force and my father was the boundaries and the discipline. So my mum would talk to us about love and about girls. My father less so. My father only when we became much older, he would share wisdom that one of the greatest things my father does, and I think I've done it in previous sessions, is men have to be generous and magnanimous. That's how he always does it. He's very regal. I have to tell you, there's an air of magnificence about him, and it carries everywhere. You go with him to the airport, or to the theater, or in a parking garage, or wherever. I've been with him in Saudi Arabia, in Turkey, in England, in America. I've been in Pakistan, obviously. I've been with my father to a number of places, and he has this regal, magnificent, royal air about him. So even when he walks, not showy, he walks calmly, as if the mountain is moving. He's like, hello, he's very much like that. So he has that air about him. So he always says men have to be generous and magnanimous. And the way he does it is magnanimous. And it makes you see, wow, okay, that's how I'm supposed to be. Interesting. But my mum was the driving force with regards to girls, with regards to love. And when you have teenage boys in the house, I imagine it would be somewhat similar, but also different in a few granular details, particularly in when it's teenage girls at home. But with teenage boys, my mum knew she had 4 boys at home. What should she tell them? These boys are obviously going to go out. They're going to be attracted to women. They're going to be asking them out. They're going to be pursuing them. They won't be studying. Look, guilty as charged. I think my first serious relationship was when I was 16. It was 20 years ago. So at that time, the more you stop a teenager, the harder they're going to push against your restriction. I think we all know that as a fact because we've all been teenagers, except those who haven't grown into teens yet. But we've all been there. That rebellious doesn't even begin to define it. It's not just a rebellion. It's an actualization. It's a struggle. It's a test of identity. Who am I really? Am I the person who reacts with anger? Am I the person who submits? Am I the person who laughs it off? There's so many boundaries we're pushing as children. Those are more physical boundaries and willful boundaries. And then as teenager, they grow into personality boundaries. Am I the sort of person who's going to be peer pressured into smoking cigarettes or drugs? Uh, am I the person who's going to lead the group? There's so many boundaries we're pushing. So my mum knew if she was going to restrict us, which they sufficiently did, but it didn't work. Or maybe it mitigated whatever it was going to do. Otherwise, I might have been released like a plague on the women of Scunthorpe. But I still went out with girls. But responsibly, perhaps, if they hadn't put any boundaries or guidance, maybe I wouldn't have been as responsible. It's a fair point. And no children, no unwanted pregnancies, no no physical violence. There was no domesticity, no assault, no crime, none of those things. Yeah, amicable breakups, no broken bones. You know, when things get out of hand, they can get out of hand for anyone. So none of that happened with me or with any of my brothers. Um, so perhaps that was the discipline and the teaching uh, ringing true in us. Otherwise, we might have been more out of control, might have gone to jail or whatever. So she realized that if I try to stop these boys, if I try to restrict their each movement, they're going to break free. One day I have to go somewhere for work, or one day we have to travel somewhere for work. What's he going to do then? Will he stay at home? No. So raising children is easier because they haven't developed emotions as of yet. They're developing them, and their physical capacity isn't there yet. But teenagers are a whole different ballgame. And my oldest nephew, in fact, my only nephew, is 12 this year. Love him to bits, and he's going to be a teenager next year. And I'm keen to see what happens. Was he 13 this year? No, next year. Yeah, exactly, 2011. So I'm keen to see how it plays out because I've known his parents for 35 years, 36 years, but I want to see how they discipline and put boundaries. So my mum would reason with us. She'd sit with us. This is even before we would ask girls out or even go out with them or fall in love. We'd fall in love with people on TV, but that's infatuation. And she'd say this, there is no love on an empty stomach. And we'd say, what? Love is from the heart, mum. Stomachs don't matter, blah, blah, blah. And she said, look, like a lot of feelings in life, love is transient. It passes. It comes and it goes. You don't love somebody 100% all the time. Anybody can tell you that. But at that time, 2003, 2002, no internet, no WhatsApp, no Instagram, no Google, no Facebook, no YouTube. So all the information would come from TV, from Saved by the Bell, from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, from Friends. There was no Big Bang, there was no How I Met Your Mother. It's that time. And she'd say these things, and I was like, what does that even mean? She said, because here's the thing. You fall in love with somebody, you marry them, or you get into a relationship, and the first couple of days and weeks are wonderful. You can't get enough of each other. And she would say these things to us very clearly. She'd say, you want to spend all the time with each other and enjoy each other's company. But after a while, when it comes time to look after one another, what do you do then? And I'd say, well, we can survive on this. She said, no. Survival is always temporary. Survival isn't a way of life. Now, I grant that for some people, survival is the only recourse, but that's an exception, particularly with regards to the context that we're in. So if you're going to criticize, let's have that debate separately, not on this topic. For some people, survival is the only recourse. I come from those countries. But she was talking about in the perspective of love, romance, family, establishing a household. And just survival, by definition, is temporary. You have to build something. What are you going to do then? If you have no money to buy food, do you know how quickly that love leaves the building, leaves the heart, leaves the person? If you're hungry, and we'd say, no, if somebody loves, because we would watch the great Shah Rukh Khan, and we'd watch the great Salman Khan and Amitabh Bachchan, and we'd watch Tom Cruise and Leonardo DiCaprio and Downey and whoever, um, or even older, we'd watch Brandon, we'd watch all these people in movies, falling in love, surviving on bare minimum. We'd watch Aladdin and say, if that street rat can get with the princess of the realm, then we all have a chance. But that's Disney. Those are fairy tales. Those are fantasies. More often than not, written by people who aspire to do those things, but maybe did not achieve them. The case of that happening is the cases of those stories coming true are few and far between. Few and far between, I have to say. The same goes with the whole, what is it, Beauty and the Geek scenario, where you're an unattractive man or an unattractive woman, and you end up, it's normally set in a high school, so you end up going with the top tier member of the opposite sex, whether it's the cheerleader in America or the football captain in America or whatever. That's true. Normally written by people who have not held those top tier positions. I wonder how many stories in movies about the education centric person or the socially awkward person pursuing and succeeding in being with someone who's socially and economically or existentially almost out of their league. These are terms that people use. How many of them were actually written by people who were socially, economically of a higher class or of higher performance tier from the beginning? Very rare, very few. It's normally written by them. So those people are framing that narrative. So as teenagers, we thought this was going to be the case. Just go and be this and be that, and it would succeed. I've asked many girls out, and I've had a pretty good success rate, because we don't do it disrespectfully, obviously, we've never done it, but we do it with respect, with genuine interest, and with dramatic flair, and it would work. But then, soon after, we were too young to get married at the time, but soon after it would be, well, I want to do this. And we'd say, I don't have money. And sometimes they'd have money, but most times they wouldn't have money. And then they would express one desire and it wouldn't be fulfilled, or I wouldn't be able to help with that. It's not that I'm the answer to their prayers, but the partner is supposed to somehow add to your joy, not take away from it. So you distract them. And then again and again. And after a while, it starts becoming stagnant, that you say, well, I don't have any resources to do something. How many interesting things can I do? All right, let me take her to the theater. I don't have money. Take her to the cinema. Still don't have money. I'll take her for a nice meal. Still don't have money. I'll take her for a walk in the park. That's free. Great. Sunday we go for a walk in the park. Tuesday we do it. Wednesday we do it. By Thursday she says, why are we doing the same thing all over and over again? Why can't we do something new? All right, we'll go to a different park. No, I want to do something else. You start realizing that if you want to make somebody happy, you need more than just love, because it's a transient feeling. So my mom's rationalization for this was try to find means of filling your stomach, because she's always said, and perhaps this could be another lesson, or perhaps I've done it before, that if the stomach weren't attached to the human body, a lot of us wouldn't work. Imagine if you didn't have to eat, and imagine if you could find sufficient shelter which keeps you safe from social and environmental conditions that may be damaging to you. Just imagine that. Would you go for work? Imagine if there's no need to work to earn money for hunger. Now, a lot of people would say, well, yes, I would like to buy a car, I'd like to have a big house, I'd like to travel, blah, blah, blah. But imagine we haven't built this social media driven gig economy world where we live today, where we feel that, oh, a private jet is normal. So imagine you go back 30, 50 years and you say, I don't need to eat anymore. If I can build a small tent, sleep as I like, and do whatever I want, I'd rather do that. A lot of people I know would stop working. I've spoken to close friends of mine and I've said to them, look, if you were, let's say your salary is £100,000, which is a very good salary. All right, let's bring it down. Let's say your salary is £70,000, £50,000. Your salary is £50,000. You're an only person, you're a single person, you're living in an apartment. And I say to them all the time, let's say I gave you £50,000 per month for the rest of your life, and your rent is paid, and your food is paid. Would you continue working? A surprising majority has said to me, no, I'd quit my job. No, I'd do this, I'd travel. Everybody wants to travel. And I say, okay, where would you go? I don't know, I want you to see this, I want you to see that. I was like, great. So you've traveled for a year. Then what happens? So I don't know, maybe I'll paint, maybe I'll read, maybe I'll write. A lot of that happens. So my mum, and so that's a fantasy, isn't it? Because nobody comes and gives you savings for the rest of your life. Because if they did, a lot of people who have just exhibited irresponsibility would just spend most of that money, but get into drugs, buy an airplane, buy a mansion, whatever. People are irresponsible. I'm not convinced that most of us are very responsible people. So she would try to make us see these things and say, look, you're going to fall in love, you're going to be attracted to girls. Great, can't stop that. That's human nature. It's the cradle of civilization. Man attracted to woman, woman attracted to man. It's how civilization has continued for 180,000 years. But make sure that you don't end up shooting yourself in the foot, and you don't end up damaging the other person's time and emotional resources. So if you're going to pursue someone, make sure that you can add some value other than just who you are, because this thing can change. But a full stomach, a warm bed, a secure house, a working car, and what did she say? And not a strong routine, but something routine. I can't remember, a disciplined routine or something. And she would say, well, a full stomach, a warm bed, a secure home, a working car, and a disciplined routine. These things make life go further. You can always fall in and out of love. People fall in love with people, then they fall out of love when they say BS like, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. That's the weirdest thing. We don't have that where we come from. That's an Anglophone thing. 88% of the world doesn't use that BS. But then a lot of those people fall back in love. So the feeling is transient and goes in and out. When you're having a severe argument with your loved one, severe, where voices are raised and doors are slammed and you're in each other's face, you don't feel love at that point. Most people wouldn't feel love. Even if you stopped and asked them, do you still love this person? They're like, no, I hate this person. It happens all the time. And then you let them calm down. And they're genuinely responding. It's not that they're pretending. It's not that the anger is clouding their judgment. In that moment of time, they feel no love for the other person. But then the moment passes and you cool down and you say, well, I do love them. We just fight a lot. Maybe if we stopped fighting, we'd stop loving, we'd start loving each other. Mark Bentcover. Yes. Big man from the US, good friend of mine. Thank you for joining us, Mark. Good to see you. Let's speak soon. We haven't caught up. I was in England, then I'm back in Canada, so we can definitely talk. So anyway, in that moment, the love that you thought would be eternal is inexistent. It doesn't exist anymore. What exists is, which a lot of couples do to each other after you've had a Donnybrook or a World War II, you say, you want some food. And the other person, if they're somewhat mature and somewhat sensible, they wouldn't be like, no, piss off. They'd be like, oh, pardon me. They would say, okay. And then you don't have to sit at the same table. You just prepare whatever, or if you order it, you eat together. And while you're eating, half of the world's problems are solved. Mark, yes, I am back in Canada, and yes, this is a very interesting change that has happened in my life. We'll discuss it on the phone. So yeah, you start eating with the person, and before you know it, the problem that existed does not exist anymore. A full stomach solves so many of our problems. It's not even funny. One of my roommates in undergrad was a food science major, a food engineer. Yeah, it was a food engineer. And I remember at the end of year 2, I got a horrendous grade in my design studio. Horrendous from my standards. I was not happy with the C. And I remember crying in front of him, and I was like, oh, I'm so upset. I know all summer I was upset. I was upset all summer. I was just like, I'm of no value, I'm of no this. And he would say to me, man, join me for brunch. And I was like, no, I want to stay home. And I'd mope about, this is 13 years ago, and I'd be upset that, oh, I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve. And he said, look, come eat with me. We'll have a nice meal, we'll get a nice drink, and we'll just chat a bit. And I'd say, fine. And he'd keep pushing. So one day I went and I ate and I felt better. And while we were walking back next to the basketball course, I remember this vividly. He broke down the biology to me. He said, man, you could change how you feel just by eating certain things. I said, as an architect, we don't think about these things, but he was a food engineer. So food engineer, is that the right term? I can't remember the exact department, but he was working in that. He said, yeah, you eat this, and this hormone is released, and this happens, and you start feeling better. And the way he explained it to me, my tribe is big on connecting over food. I have had the same experiences with my Muslim, Italian, and Chinese friends, business associates. So true. A conflict has been resolved, and business. That is so true. That's so true. It's so necessary. Food is so necessary. So he explained the biology to me and the neuropsychology, and I was like, oh, that is so interesting, because a lot of times when we're in that emotional state, we forget to eat, or we eat horrible stuff. Like a lot of people binge on ice cream when they're feeling something, which is a horrible habit. And then I started doing that, and within a week, my mood changed. Less than a week, I think it was 3 days. By the end of the week, I was completely back to normal. And I said to him, I was like, oh, how does that work? He was like, this is common knowledge. I didn't even need to be a food engineer to know that. We all know this. So if you're upset, you're supposed to eat this. So these are things that family kind of does for you without even saying them. So if I were ever upset over a grade or something, my mother wouldn't say, I'm giving you this soup so you feel better. She just give me soup, and I would feel better. But once he broke it down for me, it tied into this lesson that mum had given me about love on an empty stomach. It's fleeting and transient. It wouldn't hold. And if you've ever had a partner and you've been with them when they're hungry, or now the term is hangry, you'd know that at that moment, you could be the most romantic person in the world, and they'd be like, what are you doing? Man or woman? What are you doing? I need some food. It's almost like somebody needs to use the restroom badly. You add that brink that you're bursting, and somebody tries to tell you that they love you, or they try to hug you or kiss you or whatever. You're like, give me a minute. Because in that moment, that feeling is primary for us. So this was a very important lesson. It really helped us not make immature, unreasonable, and impetuous, impulsive decisions in our life. Um, because there were a lot of opportunities to do so, but we never did them, thankfully. And that's one, because of this driving force that my mum put forward, and two, because my father would put that boundary outside and rule us out of fear. But thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful week ahead, and I will hopefully go and enjoy this